How long do you think you could keep your eyes open? A minute? An hour? An entire day? There is a place in this world where people are forced to keep staring at entities that will kill them the instant they look away. There, a single blink, a reflex you perform thousands of times a day, turns into the razor-thin line between life and death. Would you dare step inside? This isn't science fiction. Behind the walls of Site-19, the SCP Foundation's most infamous containment site, personnel confront anomalies so dangerous that one moment of lapse, one blink at the wrong time, can mean instant death. And the irony, when the deadliest entities strain for a breach, the thing standing between them and catastrophe isn't a weapon at all, but SCPs once dismissed as harmless. As the largest containment site operated by the SCP Foundation, there is something paradoxical about working within this legendary facility, a sense of both prestige and banality intertwined. Naturally, among Foundation personnel, this site is widely renowned, carrying an almost mythic reputation, a frequent subject of speculation and breakroom discussions among those never assigned to its halls. Over the course of containment operations, the Foundation has cataloged and secured numerous entities designated as killer monsters. This was a creature that required no bullets. A single unbroken stare was enough to freeze it in place. Several D-Class personnel went missing during the initial months of experimentation, as researchers attempted to determine the most effective way to clean the cell of this troublesome anomaly, one with an inconveniently frequent need to relieve itself. Aside from that, operations proceeded smoothly. At the time, no one realized just how dangerous this piece of malicious modern art truly was. At the time, no one realized just how dangerous this piece of malicious modern art truly was. This brings us back to that fateful day in 1994, the day SCP-173 breached containment for the very first time. Researcher Theo Trask walked the winding corridors of Site-19, clipboard in hand, carefully marking off each anomaly successfully contained. The work was monotonous, but someone had to do it. He glanced through observation windows at the various anomalies deemed safe enough to look at directly, cross-checking their status. 8 years with the Foundation had dulled his sense of wonder. Nothing surprised him anymore. His mind wandered instead to thoughts of dinner, or perhaps a trip to the theater to catch the newly released Pulp Fiction. Meanwhile, in Site-19's Sector C security office, Officer Todd Buffett and his colleagues stared at the glowing monitors before them. One guard discreetly played Snake on his Nokia beneath the desk. Days like this felt wasted, and tragically, they were rare in the SCP Foundation, an organization where excitement was often little more than a prelude to death. Todd yawned, relishing the luxury of such a mundane gesture. In a dimly lit server room deep within Sector C, a team of engineers carried out routine maintenance. Their breath fogged the chilled air. The rooms were kept cold to prevent overheating of the critical systems surrounding them. It was intricate work, but their training had rendered the process almost mechanical. Often, they moved on autopilot, saving their focus for the more dangerous and mentally taxing tasks that would inevitably come later. These were mundane tasks on a mundane day, and they would be glad when it was all over. Of course, it would end, just not in the way they hoped. Nearby, a group of researchers and administrative staff sat in a break room, enjoying standard-issue packaged lunches and trading inane office gossip. It was a welcome reprieve from the routinely lethal work, a chance to exchange idle conversation with others in the same field. After all, it was an unusual line of work, one with pressures all its own. You had to talk to others who faced the same pressures, if only to keep yourself from going insane under their weight. And yet, you had to guard yourself against this unforgiving, double-edged sword. No one wanted to grow too close to a colleague they might never see alive again. Or worse, someone who might not see you tomorrow. Back in the server bank, a newly assigned technician named Colin Muntz was about to make a small mistake. While running diagnostics on one of the room's energy cores, Muntz tripped a circuit breaker, unknowingly setting off a catastrophic chain reaction. The cabling that snaked through Site-19 carried the effects of his error in seconds, triggering cascading power failures that leapt from system to system like a line of falling dominoes. At that moment, researcher Theo Trask was lazily ticking boxes on his clipboard. He was about to finish one more task and break for lunch when the overhead lights abruptly went out, plunging him into a pitch-black hallway. He snapped to full alertness, heart pounding. Seconds passed, and the darkness lingered. What was going on? This didn't make sense. Surely the backup generators should have kicked in by now, and on any other day, they would have. Unfortunately for Theo Trask, this happened to be the one day in months when the site's primary backup generators were also undergoing routine maintenance. Sometimes, life simply wasn't fair. Trask's heart leapt into his throat as a door somewhere behind him creaked open, the sound of metal scraping echoing painfully down the dark corridor. He carried no weapon, not even a stun baton, but he did have a small flashlight clipped to his belt. With a draw that could rival Clint Eastwood at his prime, Trask yanked the flashlight free, terror gripping him as he aimed its beam toward the source of the sound. The beam of his flashlight landed on a motionless figure, a faceless stare fixed on him. A rigid, lifeless body resembling a statue. SCP-173 stood less than 3 meters away. In the stark beam of light, the streaks of Krylon spray paint across its surface almost formed a mocking grin. "Your turn, researcher," it seemed to say. Trask broke into a cold sweat. His hands trembled, but he forced himself to keep the beam trained on the creature. Whatever had cut the power had also disabled the electronic lock system restraining the statue. Now, unless the lights suddenly returned and a full team with a forklift arrived to haul that slab of concrete back into its cell, Trask was well and truly trapped. He couldn't run. It would kill him the moment he turned his back. He couldn't retreat blindly either. One wrong step in the darkness and they'd find his corpse on the floor, neck twisted at an impossible angle. All he could do now was hope. Hope, and, of course, not blink. But as the seconds dragged on and the pressure mounted, that simple act became harder and harder to accomplish. He could feel the surface of his eyes drying out, the sting setting in. Still, the statue lingered, waiting patiently, as tears began to well in researcher Trask's eyes. Someone had to be coming, right? Surely a response team was on its way. But he still heard no footsteps, no squeak of forklift tires. There was nothing but the pounding of his heart and the rush of blood in his ears. His own eyes felt like they were killing him. The thought flickered across his mind. What harm could a single, fleeting blink do? Just for the tiniest fraction of a second. Now then, before we delve into the gruesome and horrifying death of the researcher, we'd like to conduct a quick experiment with you. We've produced several investigative videos exploring the chilling mystery of SCP-173, and one recurring comment always seems to surface in the feedback section from so-called armchair containment experts. Why not just blink one at a time? That's a foolproof way to keep it in place. All right, let's try it. Open both eyes wide. Now blink your left eye, then your right. Left, right, left, right. Keep going while I'm talking. Don't stop. Just keep doing it. How are your eyes feeling? Your vision's starting to blur a little, isn't it? Keep going like that, and your eyes start to sting after a while. Oh, look who it is. Well, if it isn't SCP-173. What a surprise. And it seems very interested in you, doesn't it? Best keep at least one eye open. Blink left, blink right, blink left, blink right. No pressure, of course, but if you close both eyes for even a moment during this little experiment, you'd already be lying dead on the floor with a broken neck. Left, right, left, right. Feel the burn yet? No shame in giving up. The price is only your life, and that is why we don't blink all at once. Back to our story. Researcher Trask couldn't take it anymore. His aching eyes shut for a fraction of a second, barely perceptible, and that was all the malicious sculpture needed. Trask felt its stubby arms clamp down on either side of his head, followed by a sharp wrench that delivered a moment of unimaginable pain, and then absolute silence. His body went limp beneath him as his thoughts drained away, his head twisted at an entirely unnatural angle. The statue released Trask's lifeless body, letting it slump to the floor, and shot off into the darkness of the hallway, no living eyes left to hold it in place. In the darkness, it was unstoppable. It would do the only two things it knew how to do: hunt and kill. In the Sector C security office, chaos was breaking out. Thanks to a minor mistake made by Colin Muntz in the server room, every monitor had gone black, and the landline phones that connected them directly to emergency support were dead. They had no idea what was happening out there. Either they were lucky and no containment cells had opened, or they were catastrophically unlucky and every cell had. Whatever had caused this catastrophic power failure had likely disabled the alarm systems as well, because no alerts were coming through. When the door behind Security Officer Todd Buffett and his team swung open, he felt a surge of relief. Reinforcements had arrived. That sense of relief lasted less than a second before they all collapsed to the floor. Their necks snapped with swift, surgical precision. The statue had entered the security office, filling the room with a series of cracks louder and sharper than a family-sized bag of Doritos. But with its victims now reduced to a pile of broken bodies, it was time to move on. Across the facility, in the break room, The group of researchers and administrative staff who had been laughing and chatting moments ago now huddled together in silence, cloaked in total darkness. It was so black, they couldn't even see the steaming cup of instant noodles inches from their faces. In moments like these, the standard advice is to remain calm and wait for the situation to be resolved. Attempting to take action on your own could lead to a fall and serious injury. It's good advice, but it becomes far less effective when the thing intent on causing you serious harm is already on its way, and sitting still in the dark will do nothing to stop it. Elsewhere in the building, the engineering team was racing against time as if there would be no tomorrow to undo their mistake. Partly because if SCP-173 reached them before they managed to restore the lights, there truly would be no tomorrow. Armed with pocket flashlights, they frantically searched for any way to fix the outage and bring everything back online. In a normal company, the worst-case scenario in a situation like this might be the catastrophic loss of irreplaceable data. But at the SCP Foundation, the greater concern was the catastrophic loss of irreplaceable human life. And, of course, the data too. A few miles south of Site-19, a different kind of cavalry was en route aboard a pair of armored helicopters. A squad of MTF NU-7, hammer down. Their assault rifles were equipped with mounted flashlights, and their helmets came standard with night vision goggles. Their intel indicated that a large portion of Site-19's Sector C had gone dark for unknown reasons, and they were prepared to storm in and regain control. The only question was whether they would arrive in time to save those in the Breakroom, with the statue drawing ever closer to their location. Inside, the group of researchers and administrative staff still sat waiting for the lights to come back on. One of the most senior researchers in the room, Dr. Sherry Brewis, was a longtime smoker. As such, she dug through her purse for a Zippo lighter, hoping for a sliver of light. The rustling of her search was so loud, she almost didn't hear the sound of the door beginning to creak open. But she heard the first snap, and the following scream, a sound more like an animal's shriek than a human cry. Crack, crack, crack. As each Foundation staff member fell, she could feel the thing killing them drawing closer. She could almost feel those cold limbs closing around her skull as she finally pulled out the Zippo and struck it, the flame flaring to life with a satisfying metallic click. It wasn't much light, just enough to reveal the creature looming inches from her face. SCP-173, limbs outstretched and poised to strike. The rest of the room was silent. In that moment, she knew she was the only one left alive in the room. But she wasn't a survivor, not yet. Everything depended on what happened next. The flame flickered as the statue remained perfectly still, standing so close she could almost feel its presence pressing against her. It wanted her. It wanted to hear her neck snap. The flame began to sputter, and Dr. Brewis felt her heartbeat spike. A single careless breath, and the fragile light keeping her alive would vanish. But even if she did everything perfectly, it wouldn't be enough to save her. It didn't even need a second to do what it so desperately wanted to do. The flame seemed to flicker, growing smaller, weaker with every moment. Dr. Brewis felt tears sliding down her cheeks. Any moment now, any moment. Tick. The overhead lights flickered back to life. She could have screamed in delirious relief. Or perhaps it was a scream for the countless colleagues who now lay dead around her, scattered across the room. Either way, her thoughts were cut short by the pounding of boots in the hallway, followed by the crash of a door being kicked open. Hammer-down operatives stood in the doorway. She was saved. In the hours that followed, everything was brought back under control as best as could be managed after so much death. The statue was returned to its containment cell. The bodies were cleared away. The electrical failures were fixed. And life went on as usual the next day. After all, death is just an occupational hazard for those who work at the SCP Foundation. Among all the entities tied to the power of a gaze, few are as deceptively small yet lethally dangerous as SCP-689, a silent green soapstone statue, whose every averted glance carries a death curse. An archaeologist stepped into the chamber of the ancient temple. Clearly, whatever had been sealed away within was never meant to be found, yet there were no chests of gold or piles of artifacts stacked in the corners. In fact, the room was entirely barren save for a single small statue resting on a pedestal. Upon closer inspection, the statue appeared to be carved from green soapstone, depicting a skeletal figure seated in silence. It looked harmless, and the archaeologist studied it closely until a colleague's voice drifted in from outside. He turned to respond before glancing back at the statue, only to find it no longer on the pedestal. Panic surged through him as he called out for someone to come and investigate. But he only managed a few words about the statue's mysterious disappearance before feeling an unnatural tightness in his chest. He staggered toward the doorway as his vision dimmed to black. Collapsing to the floor, he was dead within seconds. And the mysterious green statue reappeared this time, resting on the chest of the deceased researcher, waiting for its next observer. Known as SCP-689, or Haunter in the Dark, the statue was first discovered in the early 20th century during a German expedition surveying ancient architectural ruins in India. Standing at only 30 cm tall, carved from green soapstone, it is moderately heavy but easy enough to transport. The figure depicts a seated skeleton with its hands resting on its knees, believed to represent an ancient deity of the underworld. After being seized from German possession by the U.S. Office of Strategic Services following World War II, the true danger of SCP-689 was revealed. While it appears to be nothing more than an ordinary, inanimate statue, once all observers break visual contact, the statue will disappear, bringing with it a fatal curse. Each time SCP-689 vanishes, a previous observer will die within 15 to 20 seconds. The cause often recorded as natural, but ranging from sudden cardiac arrest and massive strokes to catastrophic simultaneous organ failure. If a single person observes the statue, SCP-689 will kill that individual and reappear directly on their corpse. If multiple people have seen it, SCP-689 can teleport globally to eliminate all past witnesses, triggering a horrifying domino effect of deaths. SCP-689's containment chamber is one of the most secure in the Foundation. Reinforced concrete walls, surrounded by high-intensity sodium iodide lamps with an independent power supply to ensure zero risk of blackout. At all times, 3 personnel are assigned: 2 D-Class inside the chamber, tasked with never breaking eye contact with the statue, and one Level 2 operator in the control room, blind or wearing a fully opaque visor. Anyone who has ever viewed SCP-689 is considered a potential risk, and all D-Class assigned to its containment are equipped with remote termination devices to prevent them from becoming future targets. In the event of a containment breach, the Foundation's protocol involves neutralizing or isolating every individual who has ever made visual contact with SCP-689. Blind or fully vision-obstructed retrieval teams, equipped with advanced sonar-based navigation, are deployed alongside expendable D-Class to establish a secure perimeter and return the statue to containment without ever allowing it to go unwatched. SCP-689's lifespan is believed to extend for centuries, based on its apparent connection to an ancient underworld deity. It demonstrates neither hatred toward humans nor intelligence beyond what is required to fulfill its function, but it actively selects victims in a manner designed to propagate its curse as efficiently as possible. Compared to SCP-173, SCP-689 is far more dangerous. In addition to killing when eye contact is broken, it possesses global teleportation capabilities and can target previous observers, posing a potential XK-class end-of-the-world scenario if it were ever released in a densely populated area. The concept of deploying SCP-689 against SCP-682 has been proposed, as the statue can kill any living creature that observes it instantly. However, the risks are deemed catastrophic. If the attempt failed, SCP-682 would survive, while SCP-689 could begin indiscriminate global killings. At present, the Foundation maintains strict surveillance over SCP-689, and no cross-testing with SCP-682 has been authorized. Meet Trevor Hawthorne, now designated D-4651. On the surface, he was an armed robber who killed 2 people during a shootout at a convenience store in Texas. Now, following his death sentence, he has been conscripted into the SCP Foundation's D-Class testing program. Also introducing junior researcher Dr. Julia Reed, a young and ambitious scientist of the Foundation, burdened by an undiagnosed heart condition, a condition wholly incompatible with the relentless, high-stress environment of the SCP Foundation. The two of them awoke on the morning of December 6th, 2011, completely unaware that within mere hours, they would become the catalysts of one of the most catastrophic containment breaches Site-19 had seen in years. Many would lose their lives that day, but fortunately, SCP-131 was there to turn the tide. When you think of a hero, you probably don't picture 2 tiny, half-mechanical, half-organic creatures with a single eye and the intelligence of a household cat. But this is the story of how 2 of the most seemingly harmless anomalies at Site-19 saved thousands of lives from 2 of the facility's most dangerous entities. Keep your eyes open and keep them that way. The moment you blink, it's all over for you. How long can you hold out? Difficult, isn't it? Now imagine you're locked in a staring contest with an entity that can kill you in less than a fraction of a second if you dare to close your eyes. Or worse, a creature capable of slaughtering hundreds, even thousands, all because your attention drifted away from it for even an instant. SCP-689, also known as the Haunter in the Dark, a statue no less dangerous, and one that demands even greater, unbroken attention. Both entities are threats far beyond the ordinary, so much so that even SCP-682 fears the murderous statue. and researchers have long considered the possibility of deploying SCP-689 to terminate the near-indestructible reptile. However, the risks were deemed extreme. That seemingly small, 30-centimeter statue could inflict massive casualties on Foundation personnel during any such operation. Trevor Hawthorne was one of 3 D-Class assigned to perform routine cleaning of SCP-173's containment chamber. During these operations, 2 D-Class personnel were tasked with maintaining constant visual contact with the statue, while the 3rd carried out cleaning duties, rotating roles to allow each individual to blink in turn. But that morning, Trevor awoke in his containment cell with a splitting migraine, one that would soon claim more lives than he could possibly imagine. SCP-689's containment procedures also require 3 personnel. SCP-689 is a small green soapstone statue carved in the likeness of a seated skeletal figure upon a throne, believed to represent a death deity of the underworld, first uncovered by German archaeologists in India. While it may appear to be nothing more than a religious artifact, it demands absolute, unbroken attention. Failure to comply will result in a horrific fate for both you and anyone who has ever laid eyes on this Keter-class nightmare. Anyone who has ever seen the statue becomes infected with its anomalous effect. It must be kept under constant observation. If not, a person who has previously seen it will suddenly die from a severe medical condition, such as a stroke or catastrophic organ failure. Much like the death deity it represents, the statue will appear atop the corpse of the victim it has just claimed. If not watched at all times, it will continue leaping from victim to victim until every individual who has ever laid eyes on it is dead. Its ability to teleport and its capacity to threaten multiple people simultaneously make SCP-689 an exceptionally formidable adversary. It is contained in a cell kept under constant illumination, with 2 D-Class personnel assigned to observe it at all times. The 3rd critical element in SCP-689's containment protocol is a Level 2 or higher staff member stationed in the control room, equipped with specialized eyewear to prevent direct exposure to the statue and its anomalous effects. In the event of containment failure, their role is to immediately activate the kill switch, terminating the observing D-Class personnel to prevent them from becoming vectors for further contagion. Today, that responsibility falls to Dr. Julia Reed. She was connected to the 2 D-Class personnel through an audio link, allowing for constant communication, while her finger remained poised over the switch that would trigger the explosive collars fastened around their necks. But few could have predicted that Dr. Reed's own heart was a ticking time bomb. The 2 iPods, SCP-131-A and SCP-131-B, were the first to sense the danger creeping closer. These tiny anomalies, each nothing more than a single unblinking eye, possessed an innate ability to detect nearby threats, especially those targeting the humans they had bonded with. A was a burnt orange hue, while B was mustard yellow. They communicated in sharp, high-pitched chirps and displayed a natural attachment to people. Thanks to their friendly nature and complete inability to cause harm, the 2 iPods were allowed to roam freely throughout Site-19, so long as they stayed clear of restricted zones and didn't interfere with ongoing work. As the iPods wandered the halls, Trevor and another D-Class maintained an unbroken gaze on SCP-173, while the third member of their team scrubbed the mix of blood and waste off the concrete floor. Everything was going smoothly until Trevor's migraine became unbearable. In a moment of weakness, he squeezed his eyes shut and clutched his temples. Trevor's groan startled his fellow observer, whose eyes flicked toward him for just a fraction of a second, long enough for SCP-173 to make its move. In the blink of an eye, Trevor and his fellow observers' necks were snapped, and the third D-Class was killed before he could even turn around. Due to carelessness, the containment door had been left unlocked. SCP-173 slipped out, ready to sow terror across the site. In SCP-689's chamber, the two D-Class observers remained at their posts, but Dr. Reed's sudden cardiac arrest disrupted their focus. As SCP-173's rampage spread chaos, the lights in SCP-689's containment cell flickered out, and both D-Class personnel began succumbing to the anomaly's effect. Moments later, both were dead. The sinister green statue perched atop their corpses, unwittingly revealing itself to the researchers and guards rushing in to respond to SCP-173's escape. Amid the chaos, SCP-131-A and SCP-131-B arrived, halting SCP-173's killing spree and locking SCP-689 in place with their tireless gaze. Thanks to them, mobile task force operatives were able to secure both anomalies, return them to containment, and begin processing every individual who had laid eyes on SCP-689 according to protocol. Because of SCP-131, a catastrophic dual breach was averted. These tiny entities proved that raw power is not always the most valuable asset. Their simple, unblinking watchfulness saved an entire site from devastation. In recognition of their heroism, the Foundation has considered assigning SCP-131 as permanent wardens for entities such as SCP-173 and SCP-689, and by every measure, they have more than earned it. Now it's your turn. Can you keep your eyes open without blinking even once? Could you stay focused on SCP-173 without your neck being snapped? Or lock eyes with SCP-689 without becoming its next victim? And when chaos descends all around you, would you trust two tiny, single-eyed creatures, SCP-131, who never blink to save your life? Ask yourself, could you survive this trial? Let me know your answer in the comments.